Ciao, my name is Umberto Mucci and this is We the ItaliaNews, a podcast about Italy during coronavirus times. Today is Monday, February 7, 2022. Just a few numbers about the situation of the contagion in Italy, where finally the curves are definitely going down and we are accelerating towards the end of this fourth wave, even if some here, maybe understandably, are starting to use the words "end of the pandemic." Now I can relate, I can hope, but the experience of the last 2 years teach us that the use of those words may be extremely hopeful and quite dangerous, at least now. Let's hope so. Anyway, things are getting way better. The RT index, which establishes the level of transmissibility of contagion, keeps on going down, and it is now in Italy today at 0.93. When the index is below 1, it means that we are below the epidemic threshold. Over the past 7 days, with regard of new positive cases, we averaged a percentage change of minus 30.6% compared with the previous 7 days. In the same period, the average change in the number of patients admitted to ordinary COVID wards was minus 5.7% and minus 10.2% in the intensive care units. On average, in the last 7 days, we had 229 deaths a day, with a variation of 0.2% compared to the previous 7 days. Finally, even this curve has started to go down in the right direction. We know that the curve of deaths follows the other curves, so it is normal that it started to fall last. But more and more in Italy, some experts are arguing that as for the reporting of patients, even for deaths, we should divide those who died because of COVID from those whose cause of death is different. And so they died while they had COVID, but not because of it. In Germany, this has been the case since the beginning of the pandemic. In Italy, it is not. And in fact, the Italian lethality rate is higher than in other Western European countries, probably for this reason. Nobody can deny, though, that today in Italy there are many deaths with COVID and not because of COVID. From today, also Marche reached the other regions in orange zone, but as we have already said, now the difference between zones is not very important because the restrictions are more or less equal, almost equal. However, today there are 6 regions in the orange zone. In addition to Marche, also Abruzzo, Friuli Venezia Giulia, Piedmont, Sicily and Valle d'Aosta. There are 3 in the white zone, the best one, Basilicata, Molise and Umbria, and the other 11 regions in the yellow zone, the middle one. The data say that today in Italy the unvaccinated die 25 times more, and the booster dose protects 95% from severe forms of the disease and 67% from infection than in the unvaccinated. In 3 weeks, the infections have been halved, with a clear acceleration of the descent in the last week. As already happened in other countries, Omicron is confirmed faster both in the increase of cases and in their descent compared to the Delta variant. Experts predict that in about a month, Italian hospital departments will be able to resume normal activity for all other patients, today very compressed by the COVID emergency. According to them, there is only one unknown. In the Denmark and the UK, the curve has stopped going down, and the reason is probably this further small variant of Omicron called Omicron 2, even more contagious than the original, even if apparently less serious. If it would really arrive here too, experts say that anyway it will not have an impact on serious diseases and therefore on hospitals. Finally, yesterday, Italy began the distribution of the antiviral drug Paxlovid. The contract provides for the supply of 600,000 treatments during 2022. It is indicated for non-hospitalized adults who have a high risk of developing severe forms of the disease. There is a timetable of government decisions in effect from today and for the next few days, all of which will move towards easing restrictions, except for the last one. Starting today, there is a change of the rules on the management of coronavirus infections in schools and the reduce of the minimum number of days in which it is provided for distance learning, which in the case of primary and secondary schools will apply only to unvaccinated students. Also from today, the enhanced Green Pass, that is the one you get only after being vaccinated or with healing, will no longer have an expiration date for those who have received a booster dose of the vaccine and for those who are healed and received 2 doses. As of Friday, February 11, there will be no longer a requirement to wear masks outdoors in white zone regions, and hopefully very soon in the other regions too. It will continue to be mandatory to wear the mask in indoor places such as stores and supermarkets, and in particular it will be necessary to use the FFP2 in cinemas and theaters, to attend sporting events and to travel on transport. Also from Friday, discos and nightclubs will be able to reopen and will be accessible only to those who have a reinforced Green Pass. In indoor discos it will be mandatory to wear a mask at all times except when dancing. In outdoor discos it will not be necessary to wear a mask. As of Tuesday, February 15, workers aged 50 years or older will be required to present the enhanced Green Pass, the one that is obtained through vaccination or healing. If they show up to work without it, they risk fines between 600 and 1,500 euros. In addition, they will be considered unjustified absentees. They will not be entitled to wages, but they will not be fired. 2022 will be a very difficult and important year for the future of Italy. In total, there are 100 objectives and targets to be achieved in Italy according to the recovery plan, double the number of 2021 when there were 51. To be precise, there are 83 milestones and 17 targets. The first are qualitative objectives, a sort of generic goals, while the second are quantitative in nature, finalizing projects, laws and contracts. Last year, Italy had to achieve almost all general targets, creating the legal and technical framework to organize the various projects. The closest risk is to lose the new installment of 24.1 billion between grants and loans, while the European Union is still in the process of verifying the installment of a similar amount due in December 2021. Without concrete results, the billions from Europe are at risk. To obtain at the beginning of July the first tranche of 2022, which is the second of the recovery plan, as we said, worth 24.1 billion, Italy will have to achieve only one target together with the 44 milestones. It will be more difficult to receive the second tranche of 2022 of 21.8 billion at the end of 2022. By the end of the year, in fact, there will be many more specific objectives to be achieved, as many as 16, together with 39 milestones. Then there are 66 reforms, including 23 laws and 43 implementing decrees. One decidedly complex reform is that concerning the National Waste Management Program. Connected to the reform is the 1.5 billion investment related to the construction of new plants starting in 2023. But the hydrogen problem will have to be solved with the awarding of public contracts for research and the entry into force of tax incentives. 6 deadlines are of the Ministry of Health. In evidence, there are the redesign of the network of territorial assistance and the digitization of hospitals. 5 instead are the goals with which both the Ministry of Development must be confronted, ranging from support for startups to investment in renewables and batteries, as well as the Ministry of Culture, which is working, among other things, on route tourism and the recovery of abandoned villages. Challenging is also the game for the Ministry of Education, which will have to obtain the approval of the reform of recruitment and career of teachers and start investments to renovate school buildings. Only one deadline, but a heavy one, for the Ministry of Digital Transition. All contracts for fast connection mass projects must be awarded by June. For the Ministry of Justice, hiring procedures for the administrative courts must be launched. Among the reforms, there is the crucial and very delicate one of the reform of the procurement code. As for the second half of the year, a quick glance of the deadlines is enough to realize what awaits the government. Among the many complicated and delicate things, the contested law on competition must be approved, while on the investment front there are all the contracts for the construction of the high-speed railway on the Naples-Bari and Palermo-Catania lines to be awarded. It's an almost impossible job. If seen all together with the other goals and reforms, including in the recovery plan from now on to 2026, the only possible comparison is the work done to rebuild Italy at the end of World War II. We hope that Draghi, together with the help of Mattarella, will be able to do this miracle. As I always say, we need a miracle, more than one miracle. It's all for now, it's all for today. Please stay safe and take care. I'll see you next Thursday. This was We the ItaliaNews. My name is Umberto Mucci. Ciao from Rome.